Hey class, I just wanted to share a quick example of a Kaizen event that I just had this week and thought this would be really good timing since this week you guys are working on Kaizen events. There's an example that I've also shared with you in this week's lesson in the Moodle course shell, but I thought this is one that I've just done this week that might be maybe a little bit more relevant than the one that I'm sharing in the course shell. And so I'm just going to make a couple short videos. This first one is all about getting ready for the Kaizen event. So one of my clients who had a project that he's working on that Kaizen was a good opportunity for, because we knew basically what we think the solutions were. We just need to pull a team together to execute these solutions. So Kaizen was the right approach here. But before we had the Kaizen event, my client and I met with the champion of this project, the person that actually manages this process, to make sure that we were all in agreement on what we were going to actually come out of this Kaizen event with. And so here's just a quick overview of what we did in that first meeting. That took about, I think about an hour with the champion. And so when we met with the champion about 2 weeks before this event, the first thing we talked about what is Kaizen. Because a lot of the times we find that the folks that are working on this process, this Kaizen approach to improvement, aren't really familiar with what Kaizen is. They've been asked to do a Kaizen event, or they may know a little bit about it. So really the whole emphasis here is that we want the champion to walk away from this session knowing that Kaizen is all about rapid improvement. So with most of my clients, it's typically about a 30-day window that we're working in. So we want to make sure that the champion is fully aware of what we're going to focus on here is a very pinpointed effort to zero in on maybe one problem that we're going to solve over this session, which we did was 2 days. But what we're going to walk away with is an action plan or some improvements already implemented right during the Kaizen event that can be done within a maximum of 30 days. So it's really about rapid improvement. So we want to lay that groundwork, that foundation with the champion, so they understand this isn't about like big major change. This is about very quick, rapid change that we're going to do typically in the next 2 to 4 weeks. So right away that helps them see that we're not going to change the world. We're just looking for incremental improvements. So we're trying to set the stage for what they can expect, so that they're not disappointed when we walk out of this Kaizen event with very small incremental improvements and they were expecting some major, turning the world upside down type events. The other thing that we want to make sure is that we're clear with the champion on what their role is, and agreement on what I call the size of our sandbox. So essentially we want the champion to say, what is it that we can work within? What's the size of our sandbox? So I kind of use this analogy of we're only going to play in this small space, and the champion has to agree that the team has got full reign to change whatever they want within this space, this sandbox. Anything outside of that is kind of outside the bounds of the Kaizen, but we want to define what is that sandbox that we're working within, that we have full authority to change. And so this pre-meeting with the champion is just determining what is that. Then the other thing we want to make sure that everybody's clear on is that what is it we're focused on? What is it we're trying to fix? What's the problem? What's the opportunity? So we're very clear on what it is we're going to be focused on, and how are we going to measure that? So what's the one number that we're going to be measuring the before and the after to determine, has this Kaizen been successful? And then finally, who are the players in this process? So we want to get some insight into who's going to be at this Kaizen event. What do they know about these individuals, their backgrounds, their experience, their personalities? What are their hot buttons, so we can kind of figure out, how are we going to work with this group over the course of, a couple days, and where are they coming from? What are some of their biases, their different perspectives? Anything that they know about the folks that are going to be in the Kaizen event is always beneficial. And what their expectations are is we want to very clearly lay out, what are their expectations and what do they think the goal, or what are their goals for this Kaizen event. So I always like to know in terms of dollars, what do they expect this Kaizen event to save, and then the numbers from the primary metric perspective, what do they expect the improvements to be. And then the last thing is just getting off to a great start, how they play a role in that. So typically in these Kaizen events, the champion comes in and will share a lot of the things that I've got here on the screen with the group, setting the expectations, setting the stage, setting the size of the sandbox, and then getting out of there and letting the team do its work. So every Kaizen event I do, the champion, usually the first 15 minutes or so of the session, comes in and basically lays the groundwork for the rest of the Kaizen event in setting the expectations and their goals. And then they come back at the very end where we present out to them what we're going to do. So it's also very clear. We also want to very clearly define, what they're going to say and how they're going to say it, because that's going to set the tone for the whole process and set things off on the right start. And so I always want to make sure I know what they're going to say, what their expectation is, so we don't get caught flat-footed in the session and have to do something that we didn't plan on doing. So these are just some things that I did with my client and his champion to kick off this Kaizen event.